I have an honest-to-God question right now. How would you feel if I said sequels are being retconned officially? Star Wars just came out and said that we are doing it, we are retconning it. How would you feel right now? Just describe the feeling. I feel like I would just blow up with excitement. Let's talk about realistically. Is it real to expect for Lucasfilm and Disney to retcon the sequels? Listen, I'm just gonna go out there, you can call me crazy, but I think that yes, at some point in our history, they will retcon the sequels. They just have to. They will recast everybody, same as we've been saying, like Luke Skywalker can be recast and Leia and everybody as an older actor and character. They can do it. For sure they can. How? Let's talk about it in this video. First of all, Star Wars has been embroiled, especially with Disney canon, just retcon after retcon. We just had a retcon in episode 9, where K2SO's backstory just got completely retconned from the comics. And they're still doing it, and I still hate it. I love the comics, I read them constantly, and I want them to have more value. Unfortunately, Star Wars media is just not respecting the comics. So the retcons with Luke and with Darth Vader, K2SO, Kanan's backstory of Order 66 was just completely wiped out from the comics when it came time to the Bad Batch. So retcons are a dime a dozen in Star Wars by now, especially, I'm saying this, especially Disney canon does not respect most of the materials out there except for the movies. Those are C canon. So the person who can obviously retcon everything is actually working not only on a series, but he's working on a movie too, and that's Dave Filoni. He's working on Ahsoka Season 2 and The Mandalorian movie. And no, I'm not saying that these two will retcon the sequels. But if at any point they want to retcon the sequel trilogy, the sequel timeline, and go back to Return of the Jedi or somewhere post-Return of the Jedi, Dave Filoni is your guy. Why? Because he was the one involved with the world between worlds. George Lucas originally had this idea. With the cooperation of Dave Filoni, they both came together to an agreement with, as we see in the Clone Wars, the Mortis arc, the Mortis gods, the father, the son, and the daughter. This ultimately led to the connection of World Between Worlds. Star Wars Rebels, Dave Filoni pushed it even further without George Lucas, and we saw that in Star Wars Rebels, Ezra went into the World Between Worlds, and we see all these different types of scenarios. And what was retconned? Ahsoka's death. If a major character's death can be retconned and told in a different way, why can't anything else? This is the easiest thing to answer. Dave Filoni has already retconned Ahsoka's death, so he can retcon anything else. He can retcon Kylo Ren, Ben Solo being tempted by Snoke, and he can retcon Palpatine dying for real. He can retcon anything and just create a totally different timeline. So you can have a real canon and a Legends canon. They can call it whatever, just you can retcon the sequels easily that way. But Dave Filoni doesn't stop there. When it comes to World Between Worlds, we saw in Ahsoka Season 1, Ahsoka again is connected to the World Between Worlds, and instead of dying from Balin's skull, she ends up in this World Between Worlds dimension, battles Anakin, gets taught by Anakin, interacts with him, and gets back to life. So again, Dave Filoni is toying with the World Between Worlds. Is he giving us secret signs here? You have to think that this is the second time that he is intervening with this World Between Worlds. First, it was Ezra saving Ahsoka, then Ahsoka again. So is he trying to say that if the sequels would be retconned, that Ahsoka would definitely be involved, because she was involved in the first and the second appearance of World Between Worlds? So there's something there that Dave Filoni wants to tell us that Ahsoka might create a totally different timeline at some point with the World Between Worlds, with this different dimension. With this, I want to say that George Lucas is on his last legs. I saw the last interview where he talked about why Yoda talks backwards and what was he trying to achieve. And some other interviews, and he really seems frail at this point. To make him proud, I would really, really like for Lucasfilm to sort of speed up the process. Now, why I'm saying this? I'm saying this because we all know that George Lucas wasn't a fan of the sequel trilogy. He just wasn't. He knew that he made a mistake selling to Star Wars to Disney. He admitted it as such in the Rose interview, if you remember that, Charlie Rose interview. He called them a bunch of names, and he never really talked glowingly about these new characters, these new movies. If there was a comment that I'm forgetting, like, he made it offhand as possible. He never got involved with the sequels because he didn't want to throw shade at the Lucasfilm company his baby, and ultimately what Disney was trying to do. So he just stayed away, and I know that he's a fan of Dave Filoni. Of course, they worked together. He appeared on set on The Mandalorian. I'm sure he's proud of that work, of The Mandalorian specifically, the series, but I can guarantee you that he hates the sequel trilogy just like we do. So if Lucasfilm and Dave Filoni want to try to do something, you want to make George proud because he's on his last legs. That's what I gathered from seeing him in these interviews. But this isn't the only franchise to have 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 timelines. The timelines have been split in many franchises. I mean, do we really want to talk about DC or Marvel? This has never been Star Wars, I know, but we have come to this point where I'm talking personally, I would rather accept 2 Star Wars timelines instead of just what we have right now and just be content with it. And we've come to the main problem. Because at the end of the day, if Kathleen Kennedy is still in charge, I think nothing will change. It's just been a mishap after mishap. We talked in the last video about Luke Skywalker, the tragedy that is prime Luke Skywalker never being used, and there's a couple of scenes where you can see the potential of a prime Luke Skywalker, but it's just completely wasted on battle droids and training Grogu about, we don't even see most of the training. It's just a waste. They haven't, Sebastian Stan, I mean, the stunt double for Sebastian Stan said in a couple of days ago in an interview that they haven't even called Sebastian Stan for a recast, which most of the fans would be down for. At the very least, get a athletic, ready-made hero actor that can fill the shoes of Mark Hamill, be a younger version of Luke, and just let him be free. Let Sebastian Stan go out there and play Luke Skywalker and wield that green saber and just destroy everybody. They're planning Ahsoka Season 2. Thrawn doesn't even have defenders against Luke Skywalker. I'm afraid that they won't use Luke Skywalker because of this. Ezra is just learning to use the lightsaber again. If only Luke goes after Thrawn would be finished. So it's not a fair fight. And this is why I'm scared that, again, Luke won't be used. Kathleen Kennedy just wants Luke, Leia, and all these legacy characters to just move on and for us to not talk about them. They misused them, they mischaracterized them, and they just threw them away. Mark Hamill has said that he has no intention of coming back again. We had an announcement she would retire, Kathleen Kennedy would retire, and then they went back on it. She won't retire. If she won't retire, and if she won't move back, then Dave Filoni, I'm afraid, cannot do anything at the end of the day with being able to retcon it with the world between worlds. So the sequels will be there until Kathleen Kennedy retires in 5 years, I guess, or whatever the case may be. But I think that if there's a chance for the sequels to be retconned, it can only be through this. A main character, probably Ahsoka, enters the world between worlds, changes something that will completely send Star Wars into a new trajectory outside of the sequel trilogy, and we can have ourselves a new sequel trilogy, basically. These are my thoughts at the end of the day, and I think this could and should happen. Of course, let me know down below what do you guys think too. Subscribe, like. We'll see you next time.